been here a fair amount throughout the Trump presidency. We're now coming up on a year. It's felt longer than a year, but based on where we are now and where we were a year ago, is this what you expected? And is there anything that you didn't expect?
Every day that has happened in the last year, I didn't expect. I think I expected in your monologue or closer look, you talked about the 55 minutes of Trump negotiating immigration. However, he obviously not well versed on every issue, but in there and breathing as
talking words.
I think I expected more of that and less of the just bedlam and chaos that has really marked the year.
You mentioned the Michael Wolff book and the anger that's coming out of the Trump White House about it. You think to some degree that speaks to the vanity of the Trump White House?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think Michael Wolff very clearly, and I think he's been pretty open about it, early on, he wrote a vaguely flattering piece about President Trump, more than it being flattering. It had a nice picture on the cover of the Hollywood Reporter.
It was a nice picture.
It was a very nice picture, and he apparently really liked it. And then
he likes ones with more pictures.
and then he did an early interview with Steve Bannon that was offensively just handing him the microphone and talking at a time when I think a lot of people were really worried about Steve Bannon and what ideas he was going to bring in. But it was all what's called by business beat sweetening. He was sweetening the beat. He was gaining their trust, and they fell for it. And look, this is a guy who has a reputation for doing this and making a lot of money and being very successful doing it, flattering his way into a story, doing his particular kind of journalism, and leaving a lot of crying people behind him.
You know, Bannon gets a lot of credit for being sort of a crazy genius who figured out all these things and yet makes a mistake like this. Is it just more likely that there was not a lot of genius going on?
Well, I don't think I've ever called him a creative genius.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that first of all, I wasn't there for a lot of it or for any of it really. But I think that certain journalists, when they say something's off the record, they really mean it. They think it's you can honor it. And certain journalists, it doesn't mean anything to them, and they're happy to burn sources and run away from the story. And run away after the story is done. And it seems as though he did that a bunch of times. So, I mean, I don't, Bannon's not denying that he said these things in the book. And I can't believe he would have said them thinking they were going to be in the book.
Right. It is pretty crazy. And the interesting thing is there is a parallel because I feel as though Donald Trump sort of burned a lot of people on his way to the White House, and then I think he would justify it by saying, I got to the White House, whereas Michael Wolff did the same, and I think he would justify it by being, I'm the #1 book on Amazon.
There is a poetic justice to it.
Yeah.
That this is the book so far that defines the Trump presidency with somebody who has just upended all standards. And yet, we in the media, journalists, are supposed to uphold standards.
Yeah.
We're not supposed to lower them just according to, if I responded to, this is the world we're in, if I responded to President Trump the way that he writes about journalists, calling me a flunky or whatever, you would be like, oh, I can't believe Jake did that.
Yeah.
You would be disappointed.
Glad you hold the standard up.
You'd be like, well, I wish he hadn't done that. I wish Jake hadn't done that. The president did it. The president did it. But we are expected to uphold these standards. So that's why I'm not, reading the book on air as gospel. We have to be skeptical about it.
The real standard in your family. No offense to you. Your daughter.
Yeah.
Last October, got an op-ed published in the New York Times.
She's 10.
She's 10.
Yeah.
But this is true that she got an op-ed, and it's called and by the way, she did not hide that she was 10. The op-ed title is I'm 10. And I want girls to raise their hand, and this is a true story. Your daughter came up with her own Girl Scout badge.
My kids are amazing. Jack, who's 8, and Alice, who's 10. And Alice came home from school and said, the girls don't raise their hands, the boys raise their hands. And she talked about it with my wife, her mom, and she talked about it with her Girl Scout troop, and they came up with this badge to encourage girls to raise their hands. You have to pledge to do it and get 3 other girls to do it. She came up with the badge, and when the badge came out, I was very proud and I put it out there. It was also right in the middle of the Me Too movement, and it seemed like it's great because she wasn't blaming anybody for anything. She was saying we need to be in charge of this.
Yep.
And then I tweeted it, and somebody from the New York Times, a nice woman named Barry Weiss, reached out and said, "Would your daughter want to write an op-ed for us?" And she did it. And honestly, these kids, like she's like, "Oh, that's cool." She doesn't know.
Yeah. Have you ever been asked to write an op-ed in the New York Times?
I've had a few in there, but never. It's more like I've begged to get them in.
Yeah.
I've never been solicited.
Right, right. Well,
Actually, that's not true. They asked me to write something, and then they killed it.
Really?
Yeah.
Did she ever go over and be like, "Hey, Dad, that's all right. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose." Well, you have an incredible family. I'm always happy to see them as well, and thank you so much for being here. It's always such a pleasure.